We're live? We are live, folks. I apologize for where I'm at. I'm in the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Because like we told you about 10 days ago, we were packing up. We were heading to Arizona, going on an elk hunt down there. And throughout this, I guess we'll call it session, we're going to talk about what really happened down there in Arizona and how some of these late season elk hunts turn out, because that's what this was. It was a late season elk hunt, and it turned out to be tougher than I would have liked, but hey, that's why they call it hunting, especially on public land. So before we get into it, I want to remind you who makes all this possible. There's the great folks at Bowtech right here. They were the brainchild of Elk Talk Live. And then we got Leupold Optics right here, Onyx Maps, Tight Spot Quivers, Ripcord Arrow Rests, Black Gold Archery Sites, GoHunt.com, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, all kinds of great folks making this available and bringing it to just hopefully allow us to answer a few elk hunting questions. And if you want to get lined up and notified, text Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 77453. So, with all that, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out, how do I make this computer do what I want it to do? I need a technology assistant, right? I've been out in the woods so much. Michael's with me here. He went on the Arizona hunt with us, and we were talking about whether or not we'd been on the road, or if today was going to be day 108 or 109 this year. Whatever it is, I am so thankful to be sleeping in a real bed tonight. But to go elk hunting, sometimes you just don't have that benefit. If you hear some background noise, it's because I think the Mirage is somehow over the flight path of McCarran International Airport. So, anyhow, someone's asking here, am I going to be at the Wyoming Wildlife Society conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this week? No, I'm not. I'm here in Vegas. There's what's called the Hunter and Outdoor Christmas here in Vegas. It's the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation hosts this really big hunting and outdoor bonanza, I'll call it, extravaganza, in conjunction with the National Finals Rodeo. Because at the National Finals Rodeo, they have what they call Cowboy Christmas. So they have Hunter and Outdoor Christmas. So I'm going to be down at the booth shaking hands, kissing babies, as we call it in the industry. And I'll be doing that for the next few days. If you're in Vegas, stop by down at the convention center, and hopefully we'll get to see each other. So what do we got here for, holy cow, look at all these questions already. Have I had a chance to take any game with my 6.5 Creedmoor? I've not. I'm still working on the load that works best for it. And those of you who know me know I'm so partial to my 308 and my 7mm 08. So I don't have any field feedback on that, but I promise you next year I will definitely have some feedback. Where would be the best state to be able to hunt both a bull and a cow elk at the same time? I know that Wyoming has some hunts that are any elk hunts. In other words, bull, cow, spike, doesn't matter. Montana has some units that are like that. Those are the two states I know for sure. Colorado, sometimes you can buy a bull tag and have one of the leftover cow tags, so you could do that same thing in some places in Colorado. How feasible is it to hunt pronghorn over the counter for a non-resident in Wyoming? It's impossible for the most part. I mean, you can get some leftover tags, but as a general rule in Wyoming, pronghorn is for non-residents. Well, just about everything there for non-residents is going to be a draw. So, let's see. Any correlation between where a bull elk sheds his antlers and where he will be in the rut? No, about zero correlation. Because think about it. An elk sheds his antlers usually in late March to early April. Well, he's way down on the winter range, or in some states where it's warmer, he's starting to work his way back up the winter range when he sheds those. He's going to be rutting somewhere completely different. So it's great that you're finding sheds. They're great to find. Hang them in trees like I do. It'll bring you good luck, I promise. And I know a lot of you think I'm nuts because I do that. But don't confuse the fact that, oh, I found some sheds here and that means I'm going to come back here and I'm going to hunt elk in the rut. So what do you got over there, Michael?
Can you explain thermals in the morning/afternoon?
Oh man, we just did a really good video on this in Arizona, didn't we, Michael? We should talk about what happened. So we're in Arizona and we hike up this ridge. So there's this big canyon, and in the morning, you know that the thermals are coming downhill because the air is heavier. In the afternoon, when the sun warms the surface, the air is going up, the thermals are going uphill. Well, it was a lot longer to come into that canyon in the morning from way down low and then have to hike up this ridge to get mid-level. But it was how we knew the wind would be in our face on the way in there, because in the morning and evening it's downhill, in the afternoon it's uphill. So we walk in there, it's getting light, and we see two really nice bulls across the canyon. And all of a sudden one bull stands up and he starts looking up. And I told the guys, I said, I bet you any money there's a hunter up on that ridge above him and doesn't realize that the wind is carrying his scent. The morning thermal is carrying his scent right to that elk. Whoom, those two really big bull elk took off, just gone. A few minutes later, here comes a hunter walking down the ridge. Point of that is, you are never going to fool an elk's nose. You might fool his eyes, you might fool his ears, but you're not going to fool his nose. So to the question of can I explain the uphill downhill of thermals, especially if you're an archery hunter, you cannot disregard the wind. That's why you will see most successful archery hunters or elk hunters in general walk around with a wind checker, and they are checking the wind at all times. So let's talk about what happens during the day. In early morning, heavier air, it's still cool, the sun's not up, it's coming down. The sun comes up and rises, starts heating the surface, and at some point in time, the air becomes warm enough that it starts going uphill. But there's this period where it's kind of not really sure what it wants to do. Some's going downhill, some's going uphill. And then let's say this side is shaded and it's a canyon like this, and this side is sunny, this side is shaded. You might get a downhill thermal on this side because it's still shaded, and you might get an uphill thermal on this side because the sun's hitting it. So, especially in those critical times when you don't know or the wind doesn't know what it really wants to do, and that's usually about 2 to 3 hours after the sun comes up in the morning when the downhill starts shifting to uphill. And again in the afternoon, once the sun starts going behind the horizon, you start getting this change where, the thermal is thinking, oh, it's cooling off, I better quit going uphill, start going downhill. Those are really tricky times to try play the wind. But it's really the only way you can do it. So that's a really good question. We shot a YouTube video on it when we were out there. It's going to be on our YouTube channel because it was so classic. And I made the mistake. When I first moved from the Midwest, it was flat. You had your prevailing wind, right? All right, wind always comes out of the west or northwest, and where I grew up. I move out west, and yeah, we still have a western prevailing wind, but with thermals, when you have all these changes in elevation and these slopes, completely different game. You get winds that are going the opposite direction of what the prevailing is, all because of the heating of the surface, and it's got to go somewhere, and it goes up. Or the cooling of the surface, it's got to go somewhere, and it goes down. So, let's see. Oh my, Michael, you folks must have missed us. There is a lot of comments coming here. All right, what do you got, Michael? I'm trying to sort these ones out without.
Do you use elk decoys, and if you do, what ones do you recommend?
Do I use elk decoys, and if so, which ones do I recommend? No, I don't. I've tried them in the past, but I'll be honest with you, with all the production gear that I carry, it's just a little more cumbersome. I know some guys in archery season, and I would only use decoys in archery season. I'd never use them in rifle season for a safety factor. I know some guys who do really good with them. I think how they are doing it, and they've told me, they set up the decoy, they call, and then they move to a setup position so that when the bull comes in, the bull is fixated on this decoy here, and the shooter is over there off to the side. The bull is locked in on the decoy. And I know some guys who do really good with them. The only ones I'm familiar with are the Montana Decoy Company. Yeah, again, I wish I could tell you, but since I don't use them, I'd be making it up. Someone's saying, I love your videos, but please stop telling everyone that it took you years to learn this. It did. I'm sorry. I'm still making mistakes. I proved it last week in Arizona. So let's just get to that. We go to Arizona, late season rifle elk hunt. I love them because they're easier to draw, but they're tougher hunts. We went there. We had lots of hunting pressure. There was a drought. They have had no rain there since September. And so the biologist told everyone, well, here's the part of the unit where there's still some water. And we showed up, and I've hunted that twice in the previous 5 years. I've never seen that many camps in my life. Never. And then we have a full moon, which isn't the end of the world. I mean, elk still got to do what they do. But with that full moon, they were up feeding all night, and they were in their beds really early, and they didn't come out until late. You add all that, and then we had, for almost 2.5 days, we had winds from 25 to 40 miles an hour. That's why my lips are so chapped and my face looks red. It was windy. We saw 13 bulls in 4.5 days there, and we had some shots if we could be world-class shots. And when I say we, I didn't have the tag, Jerry did. But if you think about it, some of these shots were 400 yards, and in a 30, 35 mile an hour wind, we just don't take those shots. And I know some people say, well, I could probably make that shot. And I get that, but it's just, we were hoping for something closer. So we had to leave, come here, duty calls, you know, volunteer work for Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And so we left there without punching a tag. But it was hard hunting, but we hunted really hard, and we had opportunities that if the wind wouldn't have been as extreme as it was, we would have taken advantage of some of those opportunities. So, oh well. How do I deal with the fogging of optics in humid climates? Unfortunately, I hunt in mostly arid climates. I've not had a fogging issue. Even when I take my optics to Alaska, I've not had a fogging issue. I keep them in a bino harness. I try to keep them at the air temperature, not body temperature. If you have huge changes in temperature between the bino surface and the ambient air temperature, you will get fog on them. I don't ever tuck them inside my coat or anything like that. So I've never really had a problem with it. So what do you got, Michael?
Bunch of people have been asking, how far will a bull travel to water?
How far will a bull travel to water? That's a good question. Where we were in Arizona this week, I think some of them were traveling probably 3 miles to water. And this time of year, I don't think they have to water every day. I think they can water every other day. Again, it depends on what's the air temperature. If it's a hot September time, they're going to have to travel however far is required. I mean, they got to get to water because they're really active and the temperature's hot. You get to a time like December right now, and the air temperature's lower. They're bedding most of the day. They're not burning a lot of calories. They're just laying low, so they have to water a lot less often. But don't overlook how far an elk will travel for their premium food or for water. I mean, we're talking in terms of miles. Not for an elk to walk 3 miles, they can do that in a half hour. To them, it's like, well, I got nothing else to do for the next half hour. I think me and Bill will head on down to the water hole here and get ready to get a drink when it turns dark. And for me anyhow, I try to never underestimate how far an elk will travel, because when they look like, oh, they're just walking, look how fast an elk really walks. They cover a lot of ground. So. But now that we're off the road, per se, even though I'm on the road, we're done filming for the season. We're going to be able to do Elk Talk Live again every Wednesday night at, well, here it is, 7 o'clock Pacific, because we're on Pacific time now, but normally it's 8 o'clock Mountain time. And again, Bowtech, Leupold, Onyx, Go Hunt, Tight Spot, Ripcord, Black Gold, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, all those companies are such great groups that make this possible. I hope you'll support them. Hope you'll become a member. And a couple things. Oh, if you use promo code Randy at OnX, you're going to get 20% off their app products. And if you use promo code Randy at gohunt.com on their Insider, you're going to get $50 of free gear credit in their gear shop. And remember, share this with your friends, because the more people you share it with, the bigger this platform gets. And now from here on out, we're gonna get really serious about week by week. We're gonna start talking about the plan for drawing tags, how you can draw in this state, how you can draw in that state. Okay, if you don't have a lot of points, what should be your fallback? What should be your primary tactic for getting a tag? Because you should go hunting elk every year. Ugh. I have well water in Montana, so when I drink water in a place like Vegas, Michael's over here laughing. What do you got, Michael?
How long will it take for an elk to come to a spot when there's been an elk killed in the area recently?
How long will it take for an elk to come to a spot after elk have been killed in that area recently? I've seen them be there that same day. Unless you have really stunk it up with your own human scent, which often happens when you're processing them, I have seen where elk have been shot, people just waited out for a couple hours, thinking, oh, maybe some more elk will come through, and they shoot a second one. I've never had that happen, but I've heard of it happening, and I've encountered where it's happened because I stumble across these hunters. They got 2 elk laying there. I'm like, you shoot them on the same herd? No, we shot this one, and along came another one. So I think if you stay there and you field dress it and you got stink and human odor, they're not going to be to that exact spot. But if you shoot them in this basin and they run, and by the next day, I don't think that it's unreasonable to expect they might be back up in that big basin again in a day or two. So, all right. Are the points required to draw Wyoming elk trending up? Yes, it's getting tougher and tougher. Tried to draw with 2.6 points in a party tag, which was 86% in 2016, with less as 88% this year. It is harder, and here's why. In states like Wyoming and Colorado, sometimes you got people just buying points. They're not even applying. They're just buying points. And then when they see they have the right number of points, they jump into the draw. So in this case, say you have 4 points and you say, oh, this is my year because last year it took 4 points. Well, you might have a whole bunch of guys with 5 points who just all they've been doing is buying points. And they said, oh, it takes 4 points. I've got 5. They jump in and they snatch all the tags in front of you. So Wyoming, since they only started their point system, I think 11 or 12 years ago, there's a lot of people doing that. So you just have to think about, is this a high demand area, and look at kind of some of the trends of how people are applying, and you'll figure it out over time. Do you treat your chopper mittens like you treat your boots? No, I don't. My chopper mitts, as you've seen them, they're leather with a rag wool liner. I don't treat them with anything. I just go hunt with them. And the question of comparing it to my boots, my Kenetrek boots, we've done a bunch of videos about how we treat our Kenetrek boots with this wax-based waterproofing treatment. Works great. Oh, gosh. Oh, that one just went past so fast. Can't read it. Some of these go by, when there's a lot of questions, they go by so fast I don't even get a chance to read them all. You got anything over there while I'm trying to scroll these, Michael?
Where's the easiest state to buy an out-of-state over-the-counter archery tag?
Where's the easiest state to buy a non-resident over-the-counter archery tag? It's going to be Colorado or Idaho. That's the easy answer. Those are the easiest states to buy them. Let's see. How do you convince your wife to let you hunt so much? You really want to know? We've talked about this on the podcast. So, when my wife and I built our last house, and if she's watching this, man, I'm going to get in trouble. Honey, if you're watching, I might not get it to hunt as much if I tell this answer. But we made a deal that she was going to get a certain percentage of the house price of whatever it cost for furnishings. And that was kind of a trade-off I made. And I know that kind of sounds bad. And the other part of it is that she knows I'm passionate about this message. She knows that I love doing this, that talking about public lands and lowering the hurdles so that people can hopefully not make the same mistakes I've made, in that their learning curve is a little less than how steep mine was. She knows I'm passionate about that and I love it. And so she's all in. She loves me going and doing what we do here. If you send me emails or messages, Kim Newberg is the one who's reading Daniels of the Elk Bugle. But I seem to call in my share of them. So I guess maybe you don't have to be that great to do it. I don't know what is going on with Facebook.
Yeah, it says that
we're still live. Okay.
Here, but it looks like it's stopped in it.
All right.
Because we've only been live for 20 seconds, so let's see if it's reloaded.
Are you getting it on? No. It dropped it.
On live stream or on YouTube.
We're done.
No.
What's the deal?
I think we're live on YouTube.
Are we live on YouTube? We'll keep going with YouTube then.
Yeah, here, I'll just give you a question.
All right. If Facebook's gonna freak out, then what do you got there?
What are the best methods to pack out elk on long distances?
What's the best method to pack out an elk on long distances? This is another question we talked about in Arizona, because we drove by this camp and these guys had an elk hanging whole, and it looked like they drug it for about 5 miles. There was no hair left on it. So for us, we've done all this. Out on our YouTube channel and other places, we have videos called How to Do the Gutless Method. And the gutless method is kind of doing all the cuts you would do anyhow when you get it home, but do it in the field so you can get them into manageable size quarters, put them in your pack. Everyone asks, well, what pack do you use? I use a Mystery Ranch Metcalf. And pack them out that way. Life just gets way, way easier if you quarter them and pack them out. And it's not hard at all. If you process your own game, you're going to know how to do it. It's really, really easy. It's the same cuts you make on the counter at home when you're processing it. So don't go through the whole headache of all the gutting and everything. And also, if say you have a bad hit and somehow the stomach area got punctured, if you end up gutting that thing in the traditional field dressing model, guess what? You're probably going to contaminate some of the inside of the hind quarter, some of the other places. You're probably going to contaminate it with that gut material that has a lot of bacteria. It's got a lot of problems that are going to spoil your meat. So by doing the gutless method, you can avoid some of those problems. So,
can you explain kind of like what points are? Somebody's asking.
Someone's asking how point systems work. So in the West, we have these really elaborate schemes. If you want to come elk hunting out here, you better learn how these states work. And Go Hunt, with their insider program, explains them better than anybody. And it has the best draw odds. But real briefly, here's what point systems mean. And before I even say that, there's 2 states that don't have a point system for non-residents: Idaho and New Mexico. So if you're new to the point system, maybe apply in those states. But you have preference points or you have bonus points. And they're different. Preference points are he or she with the most points gets the tag. So if you have 10 points and I have 8 points, you're going to get the tag before I do. So that's a preference point. They prefer, or the person with the most points gets the preference towards the tag. Then there's bonus points, which are kind of like raffle tickets. Okay? You have 10 points, I have 8 points. Or let's do it differently. You have 10 points, I have 2 points. You have 5 times as many points as I do, so you get assigned 10 random numbers, I get assigned 2 random numbers. That means you have a 5 times greater likelihood of drawing the tag than I do. But that doesn't mean you're going to draw before I do. I mean, let's face it, you've probably bought tickets for a raffle or something, and some person stuffs the box with raffle tickets. And you're like, well, that person's going to win. Well, then there's some other person buys 1 ticket, and that's the ticket that gets pulled. That's kind of how bonus points work. So they are a reality. You have to understand how those work if you want to come and hunt elk in the West. The Western states have developed the most elaborate schemes you're ever going to see about how they allocate their tags to non-residents. And go hunt on their insider, and you'll learn it quickly. All right, Michael, looks like Facebook is flaking out on me here.
Facebook is fried, but YouTube, it looks like is the only one that's going.
All right, we're still live on YouTube, and we're going to keep ripping it.
So, do elk use the same bed each day in the winter, or do they move and make new beds?
Do elk use the same bed each day in the winter, or do they move and make new beds? They move a lot. They will move even during the day. So let's say this is a tree, and the sun is coming from here, so it's shaded there. A lot of times the bull will bed over here in the shade, and then as the sun arcs over here, now it's hitting the bull. A lot of times they'll get up and just move 10 yards on the shaded side of a different tree, and they'll bed there for the rest of the day. So a lot of times when you see elk scratching out a bed, they'll stay there for 3 or 4 hours, and then they'll get out and they'll move to another bed just a little ways away for the rest of the day. So, and they don't always, a lot of people think, well, do they bed in the same spot every day? No, they bed kind of, oh yeah, that looks like a good spot. I think I'll bed down right here. So, what else we got, Michael? We're going to have to do all these questions from you. He manages YouTube while we do this, and I manage Facebook, and Facebook is just flaking out today. So, sorry about that.
Somebody wants to know what our next hunt is.
Our next hunt is going to be archery coos deer. And when I get home, so over the last few episodes, we talked about how Bowtech just came out with the new Realm Smart Bow. So I have one. I've shot about 20 arrows through it because I've been on the road the whole time. When I get home, I got to get that thing absolutely dialed. And we're going on archery coos deer hunt in southern Arizona next month in January. So we pretty much wrapped up our hunts for 2017, but we're going to get after it again in 2018. And it'll start early. It'll start in January, and then we'll have Alaska Bear in May, late May, early June probably. And then we come home for the summer and relax a little bit, and then we get after it. We really get after it in the fall. We usually, I would say it's, probably, I don't know, this time, what did we leave this time? August 10th or something like that, kind of when we hit the road. So, yeah. A lot of days on the road. So, what else we got, Michael?
Do you carry a personal locator beacon when hunting?
Do I carry a personal locator beacon while hunting? Sometimes, sometimes not. Depends on how many people I have with me, if we have cell service. I do have the new Garmin InReach. I have the lowest level service. I think it's like $11 a month or something like that. But I carry that. And I think it gives the camera crew comfort because I've got a weird liver condition. I've had multiple blood clots. I'm probably like this walking time bomb, and I just don't even know it. And, you know, what do they say? Ignorance is bliss. But I think it gives comfort to the camera crew that, hey, if this dude tips over out here, we got some way to notify his wife where he croaked. Can't believe I said it that way, but what do you got, Michael? You're on, man.
If this person's wondering, over-the-counter archery, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say here? Colorado over-the-counter elk. Would you rather choose archery or second or third rifle season?
Colorado over-the-counter elk. Do I want what's my preference? Archery, second rifle, or third rifle? My least preferred is second rifle because that's when everyone goes, and it's crazy. And I know people say, well, I want to get the first crack at the bulls. I want the bulls that aren't high, you know, I want them while they're still not aware that hunting's here. That's fine. I don't like hunting with that many people. So for me, if I'm going rifle hunting, it's going to be third rifle. If I'm an archery hunter and I prefer archery hunting, and I like bugling, and I like being in the beautiful Rockies of Colorado in September when the leaves are changing, I'm probably going archery, and I know that my odds are going to be lower. But it's a beautiful time to be there, and there is something about standing there, bow in hand, when that elk is bugling. If you haven't experienced it, I hope you do, because TV, video, nothing does the experience justice. When you're standing there and a big bull is just letting it rip, the whole woods are vibrating. You can feel it everywhere in your body. If that doesn't get you excited, you probably don't have a pulse. As much as I'm probably, I don't know, let's see, I would say I do 3 or 4 rifle hunts for every archery hunt. I get way more thrill and excitement out of the archery hunts. All right, Michael, what do we got?
What kind of impact do you think the wolves are having on elk populations in the West?
Wolf impact on elk populations in the West. They're going to have some impact, let's face it. They eat elk. It's wolves doing what wolves do. I do think it's changed behavior of elk, where since the wolves were reintroduced in '95, the way elk move and interact and use the landscape is different than it was. But if you read a lot of the survey data of populations from the game and fish agencies, a lot of the states are still at all-time highs of elk numbers. So does it have an impact? For sure it does. But I've shot way more elk since wolves have been reintroduced than I did before. And part of that is just I got more experience, but I don't buy the excuse that the wolves ate all the elk. There's plenty of elk out there. Go get them. Go find them.
Are you going to be at a Total Archery Challenge next year in Big Sky?
Am I going to be at the Total Archery Challenge in Big Sky next summer? I'm pretty sure I will be, unless my wife has walleye fishing plans that weekend. That's the only reason I wouldn't be there. It's a cool event. Last year was the first year I went, and really enjoyed it. I had a great time. So keep reading them, Michael. People are waiting.
What's your method of getting your meat back from Alaska?
Oh, that's a hard one. That is one of the biggest challenges. The question is, how do you get your meat back when you go and hunt in Alaska? And that is very, very difficult. It is one of those things. Hey, we're back up on Facebook. Look at this. Ha! There we go. It's hard. When I go bear hunting, I bring 2 big Orion coolers, and I can fit a full bear in there if I bone it out. Now, if you're talking about a moose, you better make arrangements of how you're going to do that, because it's going to be really expensive to fly 500 pounds of moose meat back to Montana or to wherever you live. You need to think that out before you go. So, all right. Facebook decided they're back with us. Mark Zuckerberg must have decided to pay the power bill. Here's one. It's Montana specific. Have you ever hunted the Bob Marshall, and if so, did you have any success? I've hunted around the Bob Marshall, not in the Bob Marshall. It's one of those pieces of really cool country in Montana where our rifle seasons in most of the Bob Marshall open September 15th, because the country's so tough. They know that not a lot of people are going to get in there, and the pressure's not going to be that great. It's not going to impact the herds that bad. So, would I ever consider coming to Canada to hunt elk? I would, if it didn't require that I hire a guide. And I have nothing against guides and outfitters. They provide a great service. But our whole show, all of our platform is, if Randy does it, you can do it. And in Canada, all the provinces require non-resident aliens such as me to hire a guide. So it just doesn't fit our platform of the content we produce. But I'd love to go hunt elk in Canada. I love to go hunt elk anywhere. So have a bow, have rifle, we'll travel. That's kind of me. So, oh man, look at them all now. That I don't get it. It was gone, and now I've got hundreds of questions. That I apologize, folks. I'm not going to be able to get to all these questions. This is crazy. What do you got there, Michael?
How many helicopter trips did it take you to get your deer and elk out of that landlocked BLM in Montana?
Okay, people have seen where we've done episodes where we've flown a helicopter into, say this is a piece of BLM land and it's completely surrounded by private. We fly in, we land there, and they ask how many loads did it take for the helicopter to take an elk out. The helicopter can take a load out in one elk, come back, get us and our gear in another load, and it's a lot less expensive than people think it is. People think it's like a $10,000 bill. If you split it among 3 guys, we're able to get it done for, and I know this is still a chunk of money, but we're able to get it done for about $700 per person. So, gosh, folks, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to get to all these comments. Let's see. Okay, no, we've answered that one many times before. You got one, Michael?
How do you determine how old tracks are?
How do I determine how old tracks are? A lot of that is experience. You can, especially if there's snow on the ground, if it's crusty, you know that it's probably old. In dirt and sand, you look at it, and if the edges aren't sharp, guess what? The wind and just erosion of that print means it's probably old. In the mud, it's a little harder to tell, but if, you know, when they step and there's the piece in the middle of their hoof, a lot of times that gets a crust on it and gets dried out, and in the mud it's black, except that part is kind of gray because it's dried out. You know that's pretty old. So a lot of it is just taking the time to go and study them. And all my life I've been interested in tracking animals. It doesn't, rabbits, deer, whatever. And when I'll see an animal, I'll walk over there and look at the tracks, just so it's like, oh, that's what he was doing, this and going there. That's what the tracks look like. So over time, I learn tracks are able to tell me a lot about what the elk was doing or what the animal was doing. So even when I'm not hunting, I'm still doing things that help me in my hunting. And reading tracks is one of those things. So, oh, let's see. Is my Bowtech ready for Arizona? No, it's not, because I've been on the road since I got it. But it will be by the time I get there. I'm sure of that. Oh, what do you got, Michael?
Any thought on doing a public land hunt for whitetails back in Minnesota?
Any thought about doing public land whitetail hunt back in my place where I grew up in northern Minnesota? We're talking about it. Depends on if we have any tags that are competing for calendar space. We want to get back and do it. But what happens is we end up with like this year, we had an Arizona mule deer tag. Some years we have a Colorado mule deer tag, or we have this Wyoming elk tag or whatever. So a lot of times it just ends up not working in the calendar. But I keep telling people someday I'm going to get back there, and I hope I do. Oh, let's see. Someone's saying everything is down, but we're back up. I can promise you we're back up. What do you think, Michael? What else you got?
Have you ever used mountain bikes while elk hunting to travel in odor-restricted areas?
That's a good question. A lot of guys do it. Have I ever used a mountain bike to access a travel-restricted area? I've not, but there's a lot of people who do, and they have really good luck. I've just not had to do it, and for me, if I don't have to do something, I'm not going to do it. But you think about a lot of the old logged areas, the Forest Service has gated the roads, and some of those roads are pretty good. I take that back. One time I did it. It was before we started the TV show. I did it in the Missouri River Breaks in Montana, and it worked really slick. So, but I'm not much of a mountain bike guy, so it really doesn't enter my mind. I'm always thinking of other ways to access the country. So, Randy, do you order a CDS dial for every elevation change? How sensitive are the CDS dials for accuracy? No, I don't. Most of the areas I hunt for elk are 7,500 feet. So that's what I get my dial set for. And I go and I research, okay, this is my load. What's my difference between 7,500 and 8,500 feet or whatever? And I look, and in most instances that I discover in the range of elevations I hunt, and remember, I'm not one of those guys who take 700-800 yard shots, because it just, Our show is about getting closer, everything else. And people who take those long shots, that's fine. But for how I do it, and that's how I'm answering this question, is most of my shots are under 400 yards. The difference between the elevation of 7,500 and 8,500 is pretty insignificant. So I don't have to make much adjustment for it. So I don't order new dials every time. And what the person is asking, CDS dials, Leupold on their scopes, it's called a custom dial system. That's where CDS comes from. And what it is, you know how in the old days your crosshairs are like this, and Dad would say, oh, hold 12 inches over its back. Well, your idea of 12 inches and my idea of 12 inches might be completely different. Leupold takes the guesswork out of it. You say, okay, I'm shooting a 30-06, 180 grain nozzler partition. It's going at 2,800 feet per second. My average elevation is this. My average air temperature is that. And they give you a dial. All you got to do is spin the dial to whatever the range distance is. Oh, that's 280 yards. Spin the dial to where the notch says 280 and hold dead on. No more of this 12 inches over or whatever. Boom. Easy. Slick. Gotta love it. All right. What's the best book that you can read to better understand elk? No brainer. Jack Ward Thomas, Elk and Elk Ecology. And here's why I say that. I didn't know enough about elk when I first started hunting them. I thought I could buy this tool or that gadget or I'd find a shortcut. There are no shortcuts. You need to know what elk are doing, what they need at the time you're hunting them. And there's no book that had more of that information. Even though it's pretty old and dated, it's still really relevant information about what elk need, places they like to bed. It's very scientific, but it's very, very useful. Jack Ward Thomas is the author of it. So, all right. Excuse me. What else you got, Michael?
Do you have any thoughts on the proposed CWD special deer hunt in south central Montana?
Montana has just been stated to have chronic wasting disease. They're thinking about having a special deer hunt, and the question is, do I have any thoughts on that? I don't know enough about CWD. I know some states try to completely, they call it depopulate, which means kill all the deer, as the mechanism to stop CWD. It's come with, you'll hear all kinds of different opinions about whether or not it worked or didn't work. So I'm not smart enough to answer the question, other than I don't like the fact that CWD is in Montana, but it is. Let's see, Randy, any advice for a first-time bow hunter in grizz country? I've hunted with a rifle during late season, but I plan on doing a solo archery season, or archery hunt. Yeah, be cautious, be careful, carry bear spray. Know what grizzly bears do, both in terms of the seasonality, where they're at. They might be low at some parts of archery season, up high, they go to the high alpine and seek out these cutworm moths in September. So you can avoid grizzly bears in general, not always, but some of the places you hunt will help you lower your likelihood of an encounter. And then know what they do during the day. During the day, they're going to go bed in some really thick, ugly stuff. Don't go down the north face with the huckleberry patch in September on a hot day. If you're seeing grizzly sign and scat and tracks, those are the kind of places they're at in the heat of the day. So there's some things you can do there. Also, possibly hunt with a partner. It gives you a little more comfort. If some bad deal did come up, at least you've got somebody there who's going to help out. And I don't know if there's data to support this, but I suspect if there's a grizzly bear and there's two of you rather than one of you, there's probably some fraction of time where they say, two of them, I'll leave. I'll just get out of here. If there's one of you, I'm going to go over there and show that guy what's up here. So that's what I do. All right. What else you got, Michael?
What camp stove do you prefer on bivvy hunts?
What camp stove?
Yeah.
Try them all. We've got folks in our parts of our crew that use JetBull, MSR, Primus. Whatever one works for you. There's no real magic to it. Whatever works. And if you already have one, use that one. Don't go buy one just because Randy Newberg said so. But Michael's over there laughing. What did I do? Did I say something?
No.
Okay.
How about I'm going elk hunting in Montana for the shoulder season at the end of this month. Will it be to my advantage to bring a cow call with me?
No. So Montana has what's called shoulder seasons. People are like, why are they called shoulder seasons? Well, the regular seasons are from here to here, and on the shoulder of those seasons, before and after the regular seasons, they have certain areas, they have cow seasons to try to lessen the impact elk have on private lands. Completely different discussion. I don't want to get into it here. But the person asked if they come up for the late shoulder season, should they bring a cow call? No. Calling really isn't going to do you any good. It's going to be all spot and stock. So don't worry about it. Holy cow. There's a lot of questions here that I'm not going to touch. What's the easiest way to find a hunting mentor for a new hunter? Boy, I wish I had the answer to that. Your rod and gun clubs, shooting ranges, hunter ed groups, conservation clubs, maybe some of the conservation groups like the Elk Foundation, Pheasants Forever, whatever it might be. Those are places that a lot of times will have mentorship programs. So, holy cow. Will I be attending the Minnesota Deer Classic this year? No, I won't. Sorry about that. If I go for any reason other than hunting, my wife is going to have something to say about that. Randy, when hunting over-the-counter areas in a national forest like Colorado, how does hunting pressure actually help with finding elk? Good question. It does at times, especially in the rifle seasons, because the pressure is pretty intense. Where are the elk going to go? They're going to go to the places where there are fewer motorized trails and roads. And OnX has this system called the roadless layer. You go on your OnX app. I don't know if I can pull mine up here, but it will show you where the roadless areas are. And those are the areas that the elk have moved to, and you're going to have higher concentrations of elk there. Not saying they will all be there, but the higher concentrations will be there. So it almost is a way that hunting pressure helps you sort out, there's going to be a higher density of elk in these pockets that have no roads and trails than there are in places with lots of roads and trails. So how are we doing, Michael?
This thing's about to die.
Uh-oh. Michael just told me we're about ready to, the battery in our broadcaster is about ready to die. So before we do die, we're going to take a couple more questions, but I want to thank Bowtech right here. I want to thank Loophole right here. I want to thank OnX, Go Hunt, Tight Spot, Ripcord, Black Gold, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I want to thank all of them for making this possible. I'm excited now that we're off the road. I can get back to this regular Wednesday schedule, and we can be talking elk every Wednesday night on Elk Talk Live. Again, text Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 77453 if you want to get notification when we're ready to go live, because there's going to be some events, I suspect, in the next few months where maybe we'll go live more than once. Maybe it won't just be on Wednesday night. So if you want to be notified, make sure that you text there and you'll get those notifications. If you want to watch us on Amazon Prime, we've just loaded up some new seasons on Amazon Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, it's free. And we're going to start turning on this episode and that episode. I think you're going to like that. YouTube, we just today released a new elk hunt out on the YouTube channel, Randy Newberg Hunter. We released, I think, while we were down hunting, Marcus, our other production guy, put up days 1, 2, and 3 of our Arizona elk hunt from earlier this year when I shot a bull. And today he had day 4, the day we shoot the bull. He had it ready, and it's out there on our YouTube channel. Let's see, our podcast, Hunt Talk Radio, it's on iTunes and Stitcher and iHeartRadio. And if you want to get a lot more detail, these are 2-hour podcasts. We talk about a lot of elk stuff on those also. And let's see, what else we got, Michael?
Any tips for hunting elk in Colorado in December/January for a youth elk hunt?
Youth elk hunt in Colorado in December and January.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I had some information to help with, but I don't know of any hunts. There probably are some going on, but I'm not aware of them. I'm sorry. And I try to be honest with people. If I don't know, I say I don't know. And hopefully people appreciate that, and rather than me make it up. So, all right, I'm going to look for the best one I've seen here. I don't know. Boy, there's so many of them. Let's see. Well, you got one that's just like an absolute gotta answer it, Michael?
Not an absolute gotta answer, but I got a question.
Okay, Michael's got a question.
What pound draw weight would you suggest for hunting elk?
Okay, that's a good question. I used to think that I gotta have. I better say the question because they can't hear you. What is the draw weight on your bow in terms of pounds that you should use for elk hunting? Obviously, whatever you can shoot accurately. I used to think I needed 70 pounds, or I was just, there's no way I'm going to kill an elk without 70 pounds. Well, my shoulders and my joints, I got a bum wrist. I dialed it down to 60, and guess what? I think every elk I've killed with my bow has been since I've dialed it down to 60 pounds. I know people who shoot 55 and low 50s. I don't think you need to worry so much about the pound, the draw weight. Think about, where are you the most accurate? What is the quality of your setup? Make sure you have the best of everything. Whatever you can afford, the greatest quality your budget can afford for a sight, for a quiver, for a rest, and you know who we use there: black gold sights, tight spot quiver, ripcord arrow rest. Then make sure you have the highest quality broadhead on the best arrow you can afford. Don't skimp on those things. Those are really important parts. Yeah, go buy a great bow. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm associated with Bowtech, and I get these amazing bows that they are so much more capable than I am. But my point is this: the equipment that you have is not the place, especially these accessories and the quality equipment, is not the place to skimp. Make sure you have good stuff, and make sure you practice and know how to use it. It's not about, I need something that I can draw 80 pounds. No, it's not all that stuff. Know what your budget is, get good equipment, become very proficient at it, and you'll kill every elk you shoot at. I get people into these discussions, or hear these discussions about, this or that, or, almost in the rifle thing too. You need the big super whatever Magnum. You don't. A lot of elk get killed with a bow that draws 55 pounds. Do what works for you. Don't worry about everybody else. Do what works for you. So, anyhow, our battery right there says we are ready to die. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the companies that make this possible, and we'll see you next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Appreciate it. We done? Don't forget to hit the record button there, or whatever it is, the post button, or all right.
But we're still live. Okay, we're done. We're done.